Millions of children in Sudan have missed nearly 500 days of school since the conflict began in April 2023, in what has become one of the longest school closures in the world. Many schools have been damaged or are being used as shelters for displaced families, and remote learning is largely impossible. Save the Children warns that without urgent action, an entire generation risks being denied the chance to learn and build a future. We're joined live now by Mohamed Abdiladif, who is Save the Children Country Director in Sudan, to discuss the scale of this crisis and what must be done now to restore education for the children in Sudan. Mohamed, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Our pleasure. More than 500 days of schools missed by children in Sudan. That's the figure we have currently. From your perspective, what kind of damage is this causing to the education system? And as far as maybe zooming into the amount of days that it would take for a child to catch up on school when they have missed it, what are the levels that are regarded as critical?
Thank you very much for having me. And as you rightly said, after 4 years of conflict in Sudan, what we are seeing is the massive impact that this conflict is having on many of the social sectors, but specifically the education, where, at the onset of the conflict, children, teachers, their families have all been displaced, and majority of the schools across Sudan have been used as a shelter, really causing a lot of damage to school premises, scholastic materials, and where desks and tables, which were used by students for learning, are now being used, all of them, as a firewood. 4 years of conflict in Sudan is really too much time to allow children not to go to school. 500 days is not small. Right now, what we have is 8 million school-age children who are not going to school, and that is pretty much half of the children of Sudan, and half of the schools are also very closed. Schools are not just, its basis for learning, but also it is a space for children to feel secure, to be protected. And what we are now seeing after 500 days of conflict in Sudan, children are exposed to all sorts of risk. We have seen children who have, small children who have been damaged or who have lost body parts due to unexploded ordnance. We are seeing a rise in the number of children who are now recruited into the armed forces by the different groups, or where girl childs have now been forced to marry early, which is really a big problem. Education remains one of the very few variables that really determine the future success of a country and the success of a human being. And what we are seeing now is Sudan, half of the Sudanese children have been denied their right to learn, to peace, and to play.
Compared to other emergencies that you've seen worldwide, how dire is this education situation in Sudan?
It is really very dire, because the conflict of Sudan did not spare majority of the country. All corners of Sudan have been impacted, and we see the damage to the schools. We see the death and injury this war has brought to students, their families, and teachers. And we have seen the level of displacement, the level of hunger. The entire economic sector has collapsed. It's not only the schools, but also health facilities are closed. People don't have access to clean water. Sometimes you will have a massive cholera outbreak, and majority of those who have been impacted by these outbreaks, like cholera, are children as well. So it's a multifaceted crisis that has happened, but education is really at the center of the destruction. 8 million children who are not going to school is not really a small issue. We have, on our day-to-day interactions, we are talking to children, and they are telling us how they are missing their schools, the familiar environments, the teachers, and they are also very, very traumatized about what they have seen, including lots of family members, the teachers being killed. The displacement itself is really having a severe mental health issue. So we are calling for international community to really try anything in their power to make sure that, first of all, this conflict ends, but also children of Sudan have a future, because otherwise we are talking about the loss of generations and generations of Sudanese children, and children really represent the future of any country, and we are very concerned by what's happening at the moment.
Right, as we speak of those concerns about their future, what does a typical day look like for children who've been out of school for such a long time? How is their future affected? How is their learning affected? And prospects of, even growth? You do mention that some of them end up being recruited into the army as well. And one can imagine that might even be a better option than those who might be recruited in things that are criminal.
Yeah, exactly. So a typical day for a child right now who is not going to school looks like they are not in their homes. They are in displacement camps where the living conditions are really very horrible. The life is a life which is really full of fear, full of distress, mental health issues. And as I said, because school is also provide a protection for children. So because of the conflict, most of the places are contaminated with unexploded ordnance. So you might have a child playing with those, and we have seen a lot of children who have lost their limbs and arms and other body parts. It is really very, very horrifying. And as I said, this idea becomes people don't have access to the basic services, including food. In some of the schools where Save the Children is operational, we are not only trying to revive education itself, but we are trying to create safe spaces where psychosocial support can be provided to children, and children are also given food to feed, because the level of malnutrition and stunting is very, very severe in Sudan.
During your visits, what are the children saying as you speak to them in terms of their hopes of returning to school? Is that something that they even see as a possibility?
Yeah, so children, when we meet them, they tell us about the days when they would leave home early and walk from their homes to schools where they could play with their friends. Some of them really show us pictures they have drawn of their school environment, some of the names of the teachers, and how they really used to enjoy learning, and they wish that they can go back. Children are very innocent, and sometimes what that means is they don't really have a comprehension of what's happening, around them. They really show a lot of hope, a lot of resilience, and that's really what making us as adults very happy, because there is a possibility to do that, and to ensure that schools are, reconstructed, scholastic materials are provided, and children can really go to school and be protected from the environment, which is really very harsh at the moment.
As you say, the international community is one that you call upon to step in and ramp up efforts rather, on this situation. But what is of most urgent need then that you would call on international community and donors in making sure that these children return to safe schools, not just schools, but safe school environment, whether it's back to the classroom or in a home setup?
Yeah, so we are really very concerned by the latest, funding cuts globally, but also to Sudan. What we are calling is really urgent, flexible funding to come to Sudan, so that schools should be prioritized. We require, as I said earlier, majority of the schools in Sudan have been used as a shelter. Some of them have really come under attack, and they have been destroyed. Tables and chairs, which one has been used for equipping children for the future, have been all destroyed or used as a firewood. So really making sure that resources are available, they are flexible, and children can go back to school. Teachers can really be paid. Food can be provided to children. But also we are calling for the international community to really try and use any leverage they have to really, bring this war to an end, because the longer this war continues, the more children who will be exposed to all sorts of danger, and the future of generation and generation of Sudanese will be lost with it.
We hope it never gets to that point. But thank you so much, Mohammed, for your time and insights.
Thank you very much for having me.
God bless for the work you do at Save the Children there as well. Mohamed Abdiladif, Save the Children Country Director in Sudan, highlighting the dire situation happening in the education system of the country, where school children have missed as much as 500 days of school.